Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, and CPS. I'm your host, Maryann Petri, and since 2016, Monica Shimonik has been coaching moms and dads as they navigate through the treacherous waters of the family law racket. Aside from workshops which help with specific problems, her 12-week signature course, The Best Interest of the Parent, uses a 4-quadrant model to create a robust healing and empowerment system so that you control the narrative in your life, not the state. Use coupon code SLAMTHEGAVEL to get 10% off the course. And this is in the website notes. And right now I have a guest. Her name is Rosalind Sedacca. She is a founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network. She doesn't focus her attention on providing legal advice. She agrees the system is quite toxic, but specializes in helping parents make the best decisions on behalf of their children before, during, and long after the divorce. And she believes the earlier we can reach both parents, the better chance we have at getting them to grasp the damage done by making serious divorce mistakes. And she has a unique and effective way to break the divorce news with the kids. And she has success strategies for co-parenting, long-term, and use-probing questions to get parents in alignment regarding co-parenting issues. And I'm so glad to have this guest on. Hello, Rosalind. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you on. We're going to learn a lot from you. What sparked your founding the Child-Centered Divorce Network? What started you on this?
Well, not surprisingly, it was my own divorce.
Mm.
I was in a long-term marriage, close to 20 years, and my son was 11 years old, and the marriage was very troublesome for a long time, but I stuck in because I didn't want to emotionally and psychologically harm my son. And so I kept thinking the best thing was to stay in the marriage. And finally, he was showing signs of stress from being exposed to the fighting and conflict that mom and dad were having. And ultimately, I had to decide to get a divorce. And breaking the news to him was one of the most difficult conversations I'd ever had. And we learned a lot, my ex and I, and how to co-parent effectively and get through raising my son, who was traumatized, of course, by the experience. And we did our best. And one day when he was in his early 20s, my son came to me out of the blue and he said, "You know, Mom, you and Daddy did a really good job with your divorce. And I just want to thank you because most of my friends whose parents divorced either hate their parents or are very angry at them. And I thought you guys really did a good job." And I let out a sigh of relief. I was holding on to so much guilt. Did I screw my son up? What damage did I do? And that was the catalyst. That was the point at which I said, you know, we've learned a lot. I know a lot. There's so many things that I gleaned through co-parenting my son successfully that I wanted to share with other people. And that's when I founded the Child-Centered Divorce Network. And then I became a divorce and co-parenting coach. And then I wrote my signature book, How Do I Tell the Kids About the Divorce? Moved on to write several other ebooks and e-courses to help parents and do personal coaching on an international level.
Oh, that's excellent. I mean, that's good to hear. I hate to say a success story that came out of a divorce.
Yes.
You never hear any of them, really.
I know. We were very fortunate. And I discovered that if you avoid certain mistakes early on, right from the beginning, you're much better off in creating a successful outcome. It's easier and smoother than trying to undo mistakes that you make after whatever period of time you're going through in the conflict. So that's my goal and purpose through the Child-Centered Divorce Network, is to catch people as early on as possible and explain to them that every decision you make as a parent is going to affect your children. And when both parents really do care about and love their children, they can make decisions that are actually in the best interest of the kids and avoid so much of the conflict that you unfortunately are experiencing and seeing with all of the work that you're doing.
Hmm. What are some of the most dangerous co-parenting mistakes that you have heard of?
Yes. Number one is exposing children to conflict. Studies have shown over years and years and years that it's parental conflict, fighting and bickering and bad mouthing one another, that creates the most trauma for children, because children want to fix your situation. They want to make things right for mom and dad. And of course, they can't. And
Mhm.
so keeping conflict not only away from directly in front of them, but in the other room, on the telephone, in all the other ways that they're exposed to it. Even in an intact marriage without a divorce, it's the conflict that creates the psychological damage.
Mhm.
Another related, equally important danger sign is when one parent or both parents put down and badmouth the other parents around the children, to friends or neighbors, talking on the phone. Our body language, our voice tone, the intonations we have, the language we use. You're just like your father, or lazy. All of those kinds of things that happen, and we're not always aware of it because we feel justified in our anger, in our hurt, and we say and do things that affect the children, and they don't always say anything back to you or can't even express what they're feeling. But children are very hurt
Mhm.
because they innately love both parents. Even if your ex is a total jerk or a total evil being, they may be a good parent, or the kids are getting the love that they need from that parent, and it hurts them psychologically when they're hearing one parent putting the other parent down, and they question whether your love for them is going to change too. If I do something bad, are you going to want to divorce me or get rid of me or hate me?
Mhm.
So those two things are extremely damaging.
Mhm.
We also don't want to use our children as confidants. And that's so tempting because we're justified in how we feel about our ex. We have all of our situations and all of the drama that we've gone through to justify our anger and our hurt and the resentment we may be feeling. And sometimes it's very tempting to say, well, let me tell you why I'm so angry at your mom, and then
Mhm.
sit down and start going in and using your kid as a confidant, as a friend, as someone who'll hear you out and understand you. And unfortunately, that changes who they are instantaneously. It makes your children little adults
Mhm.
because they want to be there for you. And so they'll nod their head and they'll hold you around and comfort you and say, oh, I'm so sorry you're feeling that way. And they'll help you wipe your tears. But they are no longer children. They no longer are dealing with the issues that children need to be dealing with in life, bullying and their grades and all the other situations. Suddenly they're trying to fix adult problems. And
Mhm.
again, children can never fix adult problems. If adults could, we wouldn't be in the mess that we're all in. So you have little adults running around trying to help mom and dad, and they no longer are enjoying the innocence of childhood. So that's a huge mistake that happens too frequently, not only in divorced families, but in intact families where one parent feels that sharing information with the other child would be helpful. And
Mhm.
that especially goes with never share adult information with your children. It's so tempting to say, we wouldn't be getting this divorce if your dad wasn't an alcoholic, or if your mom didn't have that affair, and other things along those lines. But once we do, again, we bring our children into the adult world, and they do not have the brain capacity to comprehend
Mhm.
the emotional issues that we're going through as adults. Again, it's hard enough for us to go through them. For a child, even an older teen, they just don't have the ability to figure it out and make judgments about it. And so suddenly they're caught taking sides with one parent or the other and trying to help fix a marriage that cannot be fixed, certainly not by them.
Mhm.
So those mistakes are extremely damaging. and also using your child as a messenger. It's very tempting to say, tell daddy I'm going to be an hour late. I'll see you at 6 instead of 5. But it isn't your child's place to remember that, to get the information accurate, and to tell it accurately. And some children who have their own agendas will miss it up, or they'll get it confused innocently, or they'll intentionally say things a little wrong because they know that's going to hurt the other parent. And there's so many ways that the information can get misconstrued. It's much smarter to use online scheduling tools that are available now at very low cost, where you can put everything in writing, or at least send a text, send an email, do something where there's a record of the information. And don't rely on your children to get the information right, because it's not their job, it's not their place. And life is confusing enough for children of divorce without burdening them with extra issues that they have to get right.
Oh, well said. What do you do? I'm sure, parents have said to you, well, the judge ordered no bad mouthing, but yet it continues in the other home. You can't stop it.
Yes. That's a very serious issue, and I wish there was a quick, instant answer to fix it all, and there isn't. So what I suggest to clients who have that, because it is unfortunately common, is that you are the role model for your children, and they're watching and learning from you. And if the other parent is making mistakes and doing things wrong and getting things more mixed up and agitating things, your children are watching and learning, and they may not be able to express it all, but they're picking up on the difference between your behavior and the other parent's behavior. And in the long run, they're going to acknowledge and be aware of the fact that you took the high road, that you were more present. Oh, sorry about that.
I can edit it out.
Oh. Let me stop and put this in the other room. I thought it was off.
Oh, that's okay.
Let me just do that. I am so sorry.
That's okay. I'm here.
Okay, I just want to get this. I lost the screen changed for me, so I just wanted to get it back.
I still hear that ticking.
Okay. Oh, that's a ceiling fan. That's a different.
Oh.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay.
Glad you told me. Okay. So I was mentioning, what was the last thing that?
About kids being messengers and texting the other parent.
Yeah, after that, we were just talking. You asked the question about when one parent is breaking all the rules.
Right. Yeah.
We'll continue with that.
And I know you said mentioning taking the high road.
Yes.
But I have found, since I took the high road, he was able to turn the kids against me and get them to hate me.
Yeah.
So what's your advice for parents doing the right thing and it still comes out super bad, not only for their kids, but for them?
Yeah. When you're dealing with high conflict divorce, when you're dealing with narcissists, when you're dealing with people whose intentions are to override you, to manipulate the situation and control the situation, control the children, then they don't want to have a child-centered divorce. And using reason and using the steps to take, that reminding them about the impact on the children isn't always going to work. And then you're getting into much more difficult situations legal challenges and things that I pass them along to you, because these are clients who unfortunately are dealing with a situation that reason will not control.
Mhm.
The taking the high road works in some families because the children pick up on it, and the children realize what's happening to the parent that's being abused or manipulated, and they get very angry when they're grown adults and the tables are turned. But when you're going through the situation, reason is not going to work with those people.
Mhm.
And and then you have to strong arm them in the kind of ways that you're familiar with. It's not my area of strength, because what I'm trying to do is reach out to the reasonable parents who do care enough to pay attention to how the kids are feeling, or who want to play fair because they understand that that's what they should be doing. So yeah, there are terrible situations in which the tables are turned on you. You feel
Mhm.
helpless. You've lost all ability to make sense in the relationship, and all ability for your children to understand who you are and get to know the real you.
Mhm.
And of course, parental alienation is the worst example of divorce done wrong,
Mhm.
and the most harmful emotionally and psychologically and physically to the children, because they don't even understand the ways that they're being manipulated and hurt, and the damage that's being done to them as well as to you.
Mhm. I have talked to children of divorce, and I actually did a podcast called Riley uh, Divorce Done Right, or it's something like that, Riley. So, I mean, there are parents that can act maturely and do all the right things for the kids and not badmouth and work together. Like you said, there's
Yeah,
personality disorders that are gonna interfere. My attorney said, "Well, we're gonna take the high road." I'm thinking, "The high road got me nowhere." It was a big disaster, and she also told me flat out, "He wants you out of their lives entirely."
yeah.
And I kinda didn't know what that meant at first because I was all new to this, but now I know, but it's too late now.
Yeah, that it's heartbreaking. It's totally heartbreaking that one parent could be so evil intentioned to do something like that to the
Mhm,
children and to their former spouse. There's no logical explanation for that. It's just toxic, and and my heart goes out to everyone who's experienced that, because it's just the worst possible situation.
have you found when you're talking to, people that people had been co-parenting well and doing fine until a third party inserted themselves in between the co-parents and the kids?
Yeah, now that's another challenge that can happen, and it can be exasperating because we don't know who this third party is going to be, what they're going to be like, and what their own intentions are. And so that brings another emotionally charged factor into the relationships, when the adults are all aware of the impact on children. They're more likely to make mature, responsible decisions because they don't want the children to be harmed. But when you have unconscious adults, and I call them unconscious, toxic people who are not aware of that or have their own agenda, then so much damage is done. And we see that in the headlines all the time, and we see that in the therapist's office all the time. And it can be a nightmare.
Mhm,
Uh, there are steps for introducing children to a new partner, for you who has a new partner, and for the ex who is suddenly finding out about a new partner. And there's ways of doing it that are more effective,
mhm,
and there's ways of doing it very slowly and intentionally on behalf of the children. And the first step is always to think of the children's emotional and psychological well-being when anything is happening, when any change is happening, when any shift is happening,
Mhm.
whether it's just a change in the parenting plan and the agenda of what's happening, which is inevitable as children grow up.
Mhm.
They age, so things are different in school and with sports and activities and friends and their freedom. And then, of course, there's changes when a third party comes into the picture and how they decide to take the reins in their position. I always advise clients that you need to be the parents, divorced or not, you are still the parents, and the third party should be there as a friend, as an adult, a wonderful adult resource in the family, but not as a someone who's a disciplinarian, not someone who's replacing the other parent.
Mhm.
And when children feel that this new person isn't replacing their other parent, they're much less threatened. They're much less willing to like and appreciate this new party because no one is replacing mom or dad.
Mhm.
When someone comes in who tries to do that, first the children usually are very upset, and then the relationship gets very misbalanced, and this step parent or a new party is overstepping their authority in ways that children usually will resent and be very angry about, and that starts a relationship that can last for decades of toxicity on many, many levels. And it doesn't have to be done that way if all parties are aware of the consequences of every behavior and every decision they make. That's what we need parents to stop and do right from the get-go, is understand that there are consequences for every decision they make before, during, and long after the divorce.
Mhm.
And if you just take a breath and stop before you react and think about, what is this going to mean for me? What is this going to mean for my children? What is this going to mean for the future of our family? You're much more likely to avoid serious mistakes and be able to make decisions that are in the best interest of everyone. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, people don't always do that. And they make decisions first, and then they experience the consequences, and then they run out to find someone to help fix it.
Mhm.
And the legal system, as we well know, is not the place to go to fix emotional and psychological challenges and issues that have come along, because it wasn't designed to do that. And
Mhm.
there's so much askew in the entire system. So I always encourage clients to avoid depending on the legal system to fix their issues, and reaching out instead to professionals who have experience doing the job, so that they're getting expert advice
Mhm.
and strategies that we already know have worked with other people.
That's excellent. When I was going through this years ago, I mean, I had a counselor and she was well aware of the court system, but I never knew about divorce coaches back then.
Mhm.
So how recent has divorce coaches been around? When did this evolve?
It's been the last 10 years that it's, and really more the last 5 years that people are aware and using them. And what it is a support system before, during, and after divorce to help you discuss strategies and resources with someone who has experience, who's been through it with other clients, and then can give you ideas and suggestions, because no two divorces are the same. And no one can do, just because your sister did this or your cousin did that, that doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So you can't use advice on that basis. You have to really strategize your situation, your former spouse, and the age and the mental state of your children, and discern what is the best move every step of the way. And having someone as a sounding board to help you, or to ask you some good probing questions to get you to make decisions that are of a deeper awareness in nature is always a good thing to do, because we are so close to our own situation. It's hard for us to imagine, especially with a divorce. No, if you haven't been divorced before, this is all new territory,
Mhm.
and it's frightening territory. And no matter how good your legal support system may be, there's so much emotional and psychological about the issue, especially when children are involved, that you need to reach out on another level besides just the physical creation of a divorce documents
Mhm.
and parenting plans and pieces of paper that say do this and don't do that. Parents really need to understand that it's their own level of communication that's going to get them through the years and the decades ahead. And not everyone who's divorced understands that you're going to be co-parenting for the rest of your life, when hopefully you're
Mhm.
still involved with your children's life. But this is a lifelong experience. And so you have to be in it for the long run, and you have to look at the situations, not only in the present, but what is this going to mean 6 months and 6 years down the line, as well as 2 decades down the line for
Mhm.
us? And how is our family going to look and feel and work as we move ahead? So the more insightful we are early on, the less shocked and surprised we are when issues arise and challenges come up, because we're more prepared to actually expect them.
Hmm. Definitely. It's just such a shame that there are parents that will not co-parent with each other. And it's and again, to bring up the personality disorders, but you mentioned having a child be the messenger, and that should not be happening. But sometimes it happens because the other parent has totally blocked you from their email, their cell phone, iPad. They've
Yeah.
completely blocked you, and then you're stuck saying, "How do I get this message?" You know, um, you know, hide it, put it in an envelope, and just hand it to your dad. You
Mm.
know,
Yeah.
what do you think of that? I mean, sometimes.
Well, yeah, you have to do what you have to do when
Mhm,
you're dealing with a toxic person who no longer has the respect for you to treat you as
mhm,
the other parent of the children you supposedly both love together. Then anything can happen, and you've seen it all, so things can go very, very askew, and you could only do your best. You have to, one, protect yourself and take care of yourself, because your nervous system and psychologically you could just fray too easily. So you have to have your own support system of friends and confidants and therapists or agents or whoever it is that's going to be there for you personally. And then you need whatever system to put together to help and protect your children. Children don't always confide in their parents, and you're not always aware of what they're going through.
mhm,
So even if there's grandparents or teachers that you can confide in and let them know, keep an eye out on my kid. Is his or her behavior changing in school? Are they doing things differently that I'm not aware of? It's important to have your support system of whoever it is, people that you trust and know care about your family, to be the eyes and ears for you, because you can't be everywhere, and you have to take care of yourself. There's
mhm,
no doubt about that.
mhm. It's just, um, some parents, like they'll hear snippets like, someone from the school called me and said, "I noticed your kids aren't smiling anymore. Just to let you know, they're not smiling anymore. What's going on?" Like, I mean, I can try to tell you what's going on, but it's just so
Um,
involved, but
well,
it's
that's
just.
important, to get the school involved so that kids feel supported there. Sometimes it helps if a school has a support group for kids whose parents have separated or divorced, or they could introduce them to other kids, just other kids around their age level who have gone through it before, because just having a shoulder to lean on, or to know that there's three other kids, in school who are also have to move from house to house and do the things that I'm doing, is
Mhm.
helpful for them. Kids feel very alone and isolated. And if your drama is so intense that you're not paying enough attention to your kids, they can really fall through the cracks.
Mhm.
It's urgent, no matter what's going on for you, that you're keeping close eye vigilantly on your kids, even taking notes about behaviors and things so that you could look back 3 months ago, is it different than it is today?
Mhm.
and and address those issues with professionals if you need to, because you want to catch it as early on as possible. Some kids will turn inward and get very reclusive and quiet and alone, and sometimes pre-suicidal or suicidal behavior because they're feeling so depressed. Other kids will have the same experience and act out and start bullying and being aggressive and angry, and changing, no longer have good grades in school and are very hostile at everyone and taking
Mhm.
it out on everyone they meet. And it's the personality of the child, how they feel, they need to express it, and they don't always know why they're feeling so angry or depressed, but they're feeling it, and
Mhm.
rightly so. And I know several child psychologists who I've spoken to who have said, parents will come in with a kid that has a behavior disorder and say, fix my kid. And the psychologist will find out, well, there was a divorce 5 years ago. But, the parent wasn't paying enough attention until things really got out of hand. And now they want, fix my child. But they should have been bringing that child in for help, within the first few months that they were be acting out and expressing depression or aggression.
Mhm.
So we have to be mindful and diligent as parents, and it's hard because we're in our own drama and it's real.
Mhm.
But our children are innocent. They don't deserve this, and we need to protect them, in every way they can. So finding groups or places where kids can meet other kids who are going through it, have gone through it, are dealing with it in an okay way, is
Mhm.
helpful for kids to see there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Mhm.
Life goes on. Other things happen as we age, and it becomes their new normal. And at the very least, we can give our kids a head start in getting through this.
Mhm. See, some school districts have it together. When my oldest, I I I knew that she was having problems, but the school had a program called Rainbows, which discussed, either a death of a parent or the divorce of a parent, and I talked to the principal, and it was no problem getting her in.
Hmm.
And then the principal called me and said, "Oh, she made great progress. So much great progress has been made." And I could tell as well, which was good. But other school districts, they don't have that. And as a non-custodial parent, which is what happened to me later, but what happened with that was then you go and try to get your kiddo help or try to take them to a counselor, and the opposing puts a roadblock there.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. You're totally right. That's exactly what happens. And every obstacle is in your way. Everything that makes sense is denied, and it's a no-win all around. And it's heartbreaking because
Mhm,
there are no simple solutions, as you well know.
mhm,
There's no magic wand that anyone can wave.
mhm,
You have to be there for you first, and then be there for the kids in any way you can. And if you're in an alienated situation, then that of course that's very very little, if anything.
mhm,
And you do need the support of other parents who are going through that, because we all know you're not alone.
mhm.
and just talking to and being with other parents who are experiencing that is comforting, just on a deep emotional level, just to know that there's other people who understand what the experience is like and can commiserate with you,
Mhm.
because it's like a life sentence,
Mhm.
and you don't have a lot of choices and a lot of options other than still loving yourself and
Mhm.
acknowledging yourself for being a good person, and remembering that you are, and that you're a loving parent, even if you're not getting acknowledged for that, and trying to find other ways that you can do good in the universe when you can't be directly parenting the children that you love.
Mhm.
Reaching out and finding purpose in life is helpful for all of us
Mhm.
when we don't get to do it in the form that we wanted to.
Exactly. And it's a shame. And some parents can find other parents, or they may have close friends that aren't going through this, but they get it.
Yes,
And then there are some people that you run into and they say, well, what happened to the kids? And you'll try to explain it, and they're like, they just don't get it. Until it happens to them, then they'll get it.
then they're not your friend. And
Mhm.
you need to find friends in a support system, because there are people who will get it, and it may not be coming from where you expected it or wanted it, but you need to reach out and find your own support system of people. And that's the beauty of today's technology, because 20, 30 years ago we could only reach out to people who were in our geographic area.
Mhm.
And now your best friend may be living in France or in another state, and it doesn't matter, because you can talk to them. And having a Zoom call or a phone call with someone, it can be a lifesaver
Mhm.
in picking you up and boosting your spirits and reminding you that you did nothing wrong to deserve this, and that you matter. We have to keep our self-esteem as high as possible, because once we let that go, we're just in a downward spiral, and that's not serving anyone any good. And we have to keep the hope that as these kids age, maybe when they grow up, they'll think differently and understand differently and look at things differently and reach out and want to know more, and
Mhm.
reconnect with a parent who wasn't there for them, or who they were talked into not liking and respecting, and finding out a little bit more. And I've heard stories on both sides. There are kids who will do that, and relationships that get healed later on, and
Mhm.
then there are others, of course, for whom that doesn't happen.
And, when this doesn't happen, that's when you have to live for yourself
Yes,
and, continue on with your life and trying new hobbies, being creative, staying busy, helping other people. Um, but
exactly. Just the kind of thing you're doing. You are making a difference in the world, and your pain is serving a purpose in helping other people, and that is the highest good anyone can do with a pain. So I always hold on to that notion of finding your purpose, and that gives us strength when we have purpose. And I know for me, getting an email from someone saying thank you, your book made all the difference for me, or I heard one of your interviews, and I one of the tips, I tried it, and thank you so much, it really has helped in my family. That little perk, awareness that I'm making a difference, it made my day, made my week. It
Mhm.
reinforced the value of my work, and I know you must be getting the same thing as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah, most definitely, and I think we're put on this earth to help other people. You
I
know, I used to work on a psych unit. I was a nurse on a psych unit, and this patient, she was like 17, but she said, "Why am I here? Why was I even born?" And I said, "You were put on this earth to help other people."
Yeah,
Then she kinda looked at me like, "Hmm." And she kind of pondered that and walked away. And I thought, well, maybe that helped her. But
Absolutely. It's a wonderful answer. And it has such depth of meaning when one gives it some thought, because
mhm,
that's something we could all do. We can't all undo the messes in our own lives,
mhm,
and we can't fix other people as much as we want to,
mhm.
but we can help other people. It may not be the direction that we anticipated it being or coming from, but it certainly is something that we can do, and it makes a difference.
Most definitely. And I know you're going to come back on my show because we're going to talk about what happens when parents start dating, and we're going to discuss that. And I know you have a free gift for our audience. What is that?
Yes, it's a free ebook called Post-Divorce Parenting: Success Strategies for Getting It Right, and it offers the kind of advice that Child-Centered Divorce Network focuses on in helping both parents make the best possible decisions they can make before, during, and after the divorce, to give their kids the best opportunity for a happy, healthy future.
Definitely. I mean, can they find that on Amazon as well or no?
No, it's just on my website, childcentereddivorce.com. It's right at the top on the homepage. They can't miss it, but I keep it exclusively there. And I have
Okay.
other ebooks and e-courses and programs all at the website as well.
Oh, that's excellent. That's going to help a lot of people. And so don't jump off because I got to set up another date with you. So I'm going to, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Just wanted to thank you for the wonderful work you're doing.
Oh,
And I really appreciate all you're doing. Keep up the wonderful work. I also have a course on anger management for co-parents, which is helpful for people who either recognize that they have anger issues, or someone else, like the courts, are telling them they have anger issues and they need to make some shifts and changes in order to get through life on a much better, even keel.
definitely. That's excellent. A lot of people have this issue, and your work is helping too. And I thank you. And I thank you for coming on my podcast.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Slam the Gavel's a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in the family courtrooms. I'm your host, Maryann Petri, author of Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth. Please join us again in the future with Rosalind and other guests. Thank you so much, Rosalind.
Thank you.